never know when we're going to actually go live, but the live stream is preparing. And I can probably, okay, we are live now on Facebook. So I wanted to share this with you. This is called Plant Matter and Climate. So what does plant matter have to do with climate? When was the last time you heard somebody talk about the importance of plant matter and climate? The only thing Walter Yenny talks about it. Other people talk about it, but not in the mainstream climate conversation. So welcome to those of you who are viewing on water and climate. If you're not in water and climate, I invite you to go to my Facebook group, Water and Climate, and join that. Lots of good, interesting discussion going on there. So I'm going to share my screen. And the screen share is done. Now that I've shared the screen, and here we go. Let's talk about plant matter and climate. Now, the bigger context here is we want to make a rapid transition from industrial farming to regenerative farming. So that's what we're going to do. And in that context, let's talk about plant matter and climate. Why is plant matter so darn important to climate, and why is nobody talking about this? So let's go to the next slide. Here's my assertion. The number one environmental priority should be to massively increase our plant matter in our farms and landscapes, and conversely, stop cutting it down, stop mowing everything in sight. We mow obsessively. Stop. We also deforesting obsessively. Stop that. So we want to stop mowing. We want to stop deforesting obsessively. We want to change our farms from places where plant matter has a hard way to go. I mean, here's a bare field because either the harvest has already happened or the harvest hadn't happened yet, but this field is bare. It has no plants. Plus, we deforested so we could have this field of genetically modified, chemically drenched row crops, corn, soybeans, etc. Stop that. So let's go to here are 11 ideas in support of the assertion that the most important thing humanity can be doing in coming months and years is to increase our plant matter. We've eliminated about half of the plant matter. We as a species have eliminated about half of the plant matter in the world. Stop that. Go the other way. Now, okay, so here are the reasons. Number one, plants harvest rain. So we're talking about plant matter and climate. Plants harvest rain, so droughts and floods are, you see in the news, oh, here's a big drought. This is caused by climate change. No, this is climate change. And a lot of the drought is occurring not merely because of carbon dioxide, but because we have eliminated so much plant matter. If we had not eliminated plant matter, if we will start reestablishing plant matter, then the plants will harvest the rain. When that happens, we'll have less drought and more periods of green growth. Number two, plants prevent flooding. Plants harvest rainwater. Plants, including trees, harvest rainwater. The rain falls and the plants prevent runoff. The plants nurture healthy soils that cause the water to infiltrate or soak into the ground. That means there's less flooding. If you can slow down the runoff just a few hours, then that's going to prevent a whole lot of flooding. We want to harvest the rainwaters. Plants are the numero uno, plants and soils are the two main strategies for harvesting rainwater. This can prevent flooding. We are crazy for not taking advantage of this, but nobody's talking about it. When you see a flood, you're supposed to say, ah, carbon dioxide. Let's take a moment to feel helpless. It's disempowering. Number 3, plants cool the air. So you walk into a forest. And it doesn't even have to be a forest. I mean, yeah, forest, but anywhere there are plants holding water, those plants, they cast shade and they cool the air. So plants cool the air because of the shade, and also because they hold water, they transpire water. When they transpire water, that water evaporates. When the water evaporates, it creates a cooling effect, so plants cool the air. Reason number 4, to massively reestablish plant matter and increase the amount of plant matter, is that plants cool the surface. As compared to what? You know, let's say you have a road, but you have a tree that is kind of allowed to shade the road. That tree is going to cool that surface of the road. Or compared to bare dirt versus plants in the soil. Here's a field with bare dirt, and here's a field, same type of field, except plants are growing on it. Those plants are going to cool the surface. When plants cool the surface, guess what? They diminish the greenhouse effect. So let's diminish the greenhouse effect. We are misled into believing that the greenhouse effect is all about greenhouse gases. The greenhouse effect is not just about greenhouse gases. It's also about the surface. The temperature of the surface has everything to do with how huge the greenhouse effect is going to be. We need to cool the surfaces by having more plant matter there. One other comparison, lawn versus trees. We mow. Let's just mow that lawn. Let's just eliminate that plant matter. Let's cut down as many tree seedlings as we possibly can. That mowed lawn is going to be hotter than if you allow the grass to grow, allow some tree seedlings to grow up in it. Item number 5 as to why we should massively increase our plant matter is that plants create biodiversity. Not just plants alone, but plants that have a reasonable biodiversity. If you have a tree plantation that's all one species of tree, that's not going to create biodiversity. But when you have a reasonably biologically diverse mix, especially when it's a mix of native plants and trees, then that's going to create biodiversity. For one thing, the plants are host plants to a variety of insects, and that's good. They are nesting habitat for a variety of birds and mammals, etc., and that's good. And also, that's above the ground. Then below the ground, you have plants are going to create biodiversity in the soil. If there's a good mix of plants, then they're going to create biodiversity in the soil. They're going to create a diversity of microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, worms, nematodes, all the insects. More plant biodiversity is more biodiversity in the soil. Why is that important to climate? Because all living things absorb carbon and water. We know that plants absorb carbon, but plants also absorb water, and plants, it's not just plants that absorb carbon and water, it is entire ecosystems. It is intact ecosystems that absorb carbon and absorb water, and that's good for climate. Reason number 6 why we should massively increase the plant matter is that plants build soil carbon. The soils of the earth could hold some multiple of the total amount of carbon in the atmosphere. Certainly they can hold the excess carbon in the atmosphere. We are not doing this because we are not paying attention. We're not supposed to be paying attention. We're supposed to be distracted, dazed, and confused. The powers that be want us to be distracted, dazed, and confused. But we could quickly and massively be storing carbon in the soil. The main thing that stores carbon in the soil is plants, because plants take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, they absorb it into their leaves, and then about a third of that carbon gets exuded through the roots, and it is a sugar. So photosynthesis makes sugar. That sugar is exuded out the tips of the roots. That's how plants get the food they need. Hey, I've got something that these bacteria need and these fungi need, and these bacteria and fungi are going to deliver to me, the plant, the nutrients and even the water that I need. They do that by injecting carbon out the root tips. Plants build soil carbon. Why are we not talking about this? We're not talking about this because the climate conversation is not supposed to solve the problem. Climate conversation is supposed to distract you and confuse you long enough for you to buy corporate products. Reason number 7 to massively increase the amount of plant matter we have is that plants build healthy soils. Now, we've talked about this already, but healthy soils are living soils. Living soils absorb carbon and they absorb water, and plants do that. So plants don't just take from the soils, plants contribute to the soils. And that is a reason why we need to massively increase the plant matter on Earth. And we can do this. We can do this. We just need to stop doing stupid things. Joel Salatin said, the tragedy of human experience is not that we are lazy, but that we are busy doing the wrong things. Whenever you see somebody mowing, they're busy doing the wrong thing. All things in moderation, right? But we don't do a moderate amount of mowing. We do excessive, extreme, insane amounts of mowing. It's stupid, it's wasteful, it's toxic, it's ecocidal. Reason number 8, why we should why we should massively increase the amount of plant matter that we have is, let's talk about perennials. This is not a complete sentence like the other things, but perennials in farming. Most of our calories, either our total calories or our plant-based calories, come from annual crops. So annual is the opposite of perennial. An annual is a plant that only lives 1 year. A perennial is a plant that lives multiple years. Most of our calories come from annuals such as corn, rice, wheat, soy, oats. So we need to switch to where we're getting most of our calories from perennials. If we do that, so this whole series is how to switch from industrial to regenerative agriculture. If we have more perennials in our farming, then our farms will perform all of the services that are important and available. And that is, absorbing water, absorbing carbon, building healthy soils, casting shade so as to cool the air, providing food for humans, providing food for humans and animals. And we will do a lot more of these services when we have perennials. And when you have perennials, you can have a mix. You can have a mix of plants. A mix of plants means biological diversity. We need biological diversity because it is diverse, robust, intact ecosystems that absorb carbon and absorb water. And it's also those robust, diverse, intact ecosystems that provide habitat for wildlife. We need wildlife for so many reasons, not least of all, wildlife means biological diversity. Biological diversity means good nutrition. Biological diversity also means you haven't been killing things needlessly with toxic chemicals. So that I'm describing biodiversity in farming, and that's going to involve a lot of perennials. Reason number 9 why we should massively increase our plant matter in our generally landscaping, farming, etc. Plants prevent drought. We have so much drought in the American West, in Africa, in Australia, in large parts of Asia. We have lots and lots and lots of drought. And the self-serving, sold out climate media wants to attribute all of this to CO2. That way they can sell us corporate products to address the CO2 problem. Meanwhile, they're not talking about the real causes of drought, at least not a complete set of problems. They're not talking about the real causes. They're not talking about holistic solutions. But plants prevent drought. Let's talk about how plants absorb rainwater. They cause water to infiltrate into the soil. They build healthy soils. Plants, if you talk about forests, plants, they're a reservoir for water. They emit vapor that becomes rain. They emit bacteria that causes precipitation. There's so many ways that plants prevent drought if we will let them. Reason number 10 why we should massively increase the amount of plant matter in the world is that plants are a reservoir for water. It's one reason whenever I see mowing or clearing brush, here's a beautiful tree, and then we're just going to mow everything underneath it. Well, you're eliminating a reservoir for water. Plus, whenever you see clear cut, hey, here's how to solve the climate crisis. Let's clear cut forests, turn them into wood pellets, and ship them to Europe. No, that's not the way to prevent the climate crisis. It's a way to cause the climate crisis because you are eliminating a reservoir for water. Plants are a reservoir for water. Trees are a reservoir for water. And they nurture the underground reservoir for water because they nurture healthy soils. Plants also, they die and they leaves fall from trees, and leaves are organic matter that covers the surface that is also a reservoir for water. When we blow leaves, when we rake leaves too much, then we are eliminating that reservoir for water that could otherwise, it could prevent floods, it can help prevent droughts, it could also be a water source for animals. Plants are a reservoir for water. We need to stop making war on plants. Reason number 11, why we should massively increase the amount of plant matter on the planet is that forests cause rain. When we're deforesting, we're not just, Americans are so hypocritical. We're critical of Brazilians for deforesting the Amazon when we've done nothing but massive deforestation of our continent as well. So, but when we do that, but conversely, forests cause rain in 3 or 4 different ways. One is that they emit a bacteria. Trees emit a bacteria called Arabacter. Arabacter causes precipitation. Rain doesn't just fall for no reason. There needs to be a nucleus to cause water molecules to coalesce into a raindrop. That nucleus is either going to be ice crystals, or it's going to be salt, or it's going to be a bacteria known as an Arabacter. And forests, so this Arabacter emerges from forests. It comes out of every leaf is going to emit some aerobacter, and that gets into the air and it causes rain. Forests literally cause rain. Forests literally draw rain to themselves by causing rain and by causing low pressure systems, which tend to pull air in toward them. They also emit a certain amount of water vapor that becomes rain. They also nurture healthy soils. The healthy soil becomes a carbon sponge, which soaks up water, which helps the plant matter to continue to grow even in periods of relative dryness. And so forests cause rain. That's reason number 11 why we should massively increase the amount of plant matter, including the amount of forests. So there we have it, 11 ideas why the number one environmental priority should be to massively increase our plant matter in our farms and landscapes. And next item, recommended resources, Restoration Agriculture by Mark Shepard. So I can tell you where I was and when it was when I was listening to the audio version of Mark Shepard's Restoration Agriculture, and it clued me into the fact that we can have that farms can become wildlife habitat. Farms can be a way of ecosystem restoration, whether you're talking about all the different things that forests do. And it's not just about forests, it's about, but a farm can be biologically diverse. You can have multiple kinds of animals, multiple kinds of plants. That is so radically different from what we have today with the industrial production model. So Mark Shepard is a really good person to know. Look him up on YouTube. And so what else about Mark Shepard? He was trained as an ecologist, and he has New Forest Farm in Wisconsin. It's one of the few places that when it rains, his farm is not a reason for the flooding. Mark has written not only Restoration Agriculture, but has written Water for Any Farm, which is taken after Water for Every Farm by P.A. Yeomans, the great Australian who pioneered the water harvesting and the keyline system. So that's Mark Shepard. This has been Plant Matter and Climate as part of a series about how to rapidly transition from industrial farming to regenerative farming, written by me. And you can find, if you want to email me at info@theclimatereport.net. Thank you very much for joining me. We'll stop the screen share and see if anybody has joined me live. Okay, thank you for joining me. Talk to you later.